Please feel free to interrupt me at any point. It's like 25 slides, so we have 45 minutes. I would like to do like maybe half an hour talk, 15 minutes conversation, rather, or discussion. So the talk is called openSUSE Leap, the current and future strategy. It could be also called the current and future plan. By current, I mean 15.2, and future next release 15.3. So we are talking 2020, 2021. I'm Luboš. I'm the new release manager for openSUSE Leap since 1st of January, I believe. So let's have a look at the agenda. I kind of defined 4 pillars that I would like to touch here. So one is to revisit the openSUSE Leap introduction, see what we claim, who do we actually aim at, what's the strong sides of openSUSE Leap, how can we improve it. Then, every section will be like where we are now and what can we do better, sort of. That's the take. The second would be how do we develop openSUSE Leap? That means from engineering point of view, like from submitters, contributors, what's hindering us? How can we be better at what we believe are our strong side? The next section will be how do we build distribution that may touch or require the knowledge of previous topic, the jump presented by Adrian. So I have a very short summary on 1 page. If you haven't seen the presentation, it should be sufficient to understand the idea. And then the last section, if we will have time to go for it, I'll be more than happy. But I'm afraid that maybe it will take too much time. But generally, I would like to revisit what do we want to what do we have in 15.2? From desktop perspective, virtualization, and do we plan to add anything new to the box? That will be like last 2 slides or 3 slides. Some topics that I feel like are very worth investigating. So we have some open opportunities. So I took this long text from the wiki for openSUSE Leap. So essentially, we don't have to read it all. But what we are saying is that openSUSE Leap is a new type of distribution. It's a hybrid distribution which tries to connect the enterprise world from SUSE Linux Enterprise and guarantees stability and reliability, which we believe is unmatched by other distributions. But we still actually try to, do a continuation for the faster paced distribution, which is openSUSE Tumbleweed, and we try to get as much updates from Tumbleweed as possible. But we have challenges to get this working, together. So we have to do the best effort. And later I will cover whether we can do better than we are doing now. And so it's sort of bridging between enterprise and community. This is what the slide is about. And I feel this is still a good match. This is what I feel as well from these few months that I'm on the distribution. So the mission seems to be to bridge community enterprise. As I said, there are some issues. You've already heard it raised on the question part for Adrian. How do I, process my submission, which is somehow hindered by maybe SLE? So I would like to revisit this further as well. And generally, I would like to have a look at you and discuss what can we do better to be able to keep up with the new technologies which are coming and still deliver the stability that's being asked for. So let's have a look. And from the contributor point of view, how do we develop openSUSE Leap? So the distribution is essentially 1/3 enterprise. This is the 4,000 packages which come from SLE, SUSE Linux Enterprise. And essentially, even nowadays, every single submission which comes to these packages is reviewed by Origin. There is an Origin review, that's being done by Origin reviewers team. And we have to watch if it's a SLE submission, and in such case, we really need to ensure that that the code change comes from the SLE side. We can do some intermediate steps, such as create a fork if we know that the submission will be delayed, but it's on the right path, or we can keep the fork in case that we already disagreed about the functionality and it's required for Leap. So this is the current rule that we have. And it sort of gets in certain areas more visible with Jump, but I don't feel like Jump is bringing any new issues that we wouldn't already have. I will touch that later on. So the remaining 8,000 packages are coming from community, so to say. So our best effort currently is to make sure that we can update as much as we can to the version from openSUSE factory, right? It's also the cheapest for maintenance because we actually limit the amount of code strings that we have to maintain. It's also easier to update these packages afterwards. But the problem here is that we still need to make sure that these updates actually work with the one thread which is coming from SLE, and there the versions are kind of fixed. So we may not be able to update all of them. So, and on the next slide, I would like to see what I think we can do in order to be better at both of these. So, as I said, the hybrid model, which is enterprise to community relation, comes with a process hindrance, and so to say, we do not really have a valid process in place that would be fully transparent, would be sufficient enough to actually fast pace these submissions. Like right now, usually what happens is that we reject the submission because we say, hey, this is a SLE origin. We may create a SLE feature, do a little bit of communication, report it back, but it's all through people, which are just a middleman. And the original requester is sometimes, in limbo, and he just blindly waits for updates. And I feel this is not good. So we are lacking transparent process. It's not a new issue, and Jump is actually making it more visible because there, we actually import binaries. So creating forks is kind of a little bit going against the idea. So it gets more and more important to make sure that everything's working as expected. Everything comes properly from SLE, and we have a nice way how to modify these packages. So the current effort that we further took is start to document stuff. Like most of this process, how to actually submit something from to SLE was unofficial. It was usually best effort of people, maybe creating temporary fork, wait for the feature or create a bug, to try to sneak it over. But like it's unofficial, and I did agree with product management to actually fix this year, unrelated from Jump, no matter whether it happens or not. And simply have a process in place by autumn 2020. What I mean by process is that we have a plan on what to do with the submission on the openSUSE leave side. Rather than reject it, there should be some action item with it, either suppress-it, or reuse it if possible, but not reject, because I feel like this is a strong word, and it's currently happening. So it covers the submission, and it covers the updates about the process of your submission on the enterprise side, on the behind the SUSE wall. So we want to make sure that you as a contributor can actually, by yourself, without contacting me or somebody else, see the progress. So I feel like this is already helping a lot because we can get contribution to this one thread of packages easier, and and less demotivating, I would say. So the current effort to actually document it, the link can be found on the bottom of the page if you are interested. And why did I reference the release team? Did I mention it anywhere? Should be probably for the next slide. So please read it through. I feel like it's useful. I also covered some sort of typical use cases of where the process is actually hindering the contributors the most. In some cases, it can be really tricky if you are touching not just the SLE code, but maybe a code for one of the products which is based on top of SLE, such as storage or CASP. And I feel like these personas are kind of really showing nicely where is it really problematic. It also shows the problem with late features, which require extra approvals, and early features. So all should be described there. If the page is not understandable enough, please raise it on factory. I can try to make it a little bit, easier to read through. So the other part, so this is regarding, like how to improve the first part was mainly how to improve the situation on the one thread of the packages, right? So if we can make it more transparent, maybe less hindering, less demotivating, I feel like we can do a better job there. So what about the other two threads? So these two threads are representing the community part of the lib distribution. So when I was thinking, we are kind of limited by time. Right now, Tomáš Kvátal and Max are doing a great job at refreshing the two threads of the distribution, and take, for example, the entire Python stack from factory, which was effort for, I believe, few months. And we are not that many, so we have limited resources and also time, right? So basically, the way what I see is that if we could unify the resources, like essentially backwards people are working on the very same submissions, and they have to get them to their project. So they kind of do some sort of integration testing as well, even when it's not equal to staging, which is happening on Leap. But if we would actually join resources, join our efforts, and resources as far as people go, we could do a little bit better on that. We would instantly gain extra 2 people or 3 people, in openSUSE Leap team, and I believe that would help. So we would be, better at doing these refreshes, so to say. And also we would actually avoid the duplication on the pre-integration part, because it wouldn't happen twice, for backwards and Leap, so to say. So also save some time there, therefore have more resources. So one nice highlight that I would like to mention, and I feel like Jump would fix it, maybe also with help, from the process side, is that when we were accepting GNOME update in Leap, like in this version of Leap, it took us 6 weeks to get it into Leap after it was already accepted in SLE. And part of it was that it was, problematic on the OpenQA side. We had to refresh all the needles. Part of it was that Max had also for a few days vacation, so I had to back him up, and I was not so, familiar with OpenQA and so on. But generally, like, there was also a lot of issues with pre-integration. We had to fix several install check issues and so on. And it was literally 6 weeks. And with Jump, if you just sync it over, take it as it is, and have a simplified pre-integration testing, it could be almost instant. So we would save 6 weeks just on the GNOME update. And that would also count for every other, package set coming from SLE. So I feel like that would help us a little bit more to focus on, not on the enterprise part, which would come for free, so to say, but we would be able to focus on the community part of the distribution, because we wouldn't have to care about the enterprise part. And this is where I see that we could really improve, and it would help. So it's just an idea. Again, it's all driven by results of Jump, like how it works. So far, we are really early. We have an FTP3 build, but that's it. And so let's see. So next topic would be regarding building of the distribution. I was trying to cover, the path from maintainer to distribution. Now let's talk about the part that happens after. So how do we currently build openSUSE distribution, right? We are using OBS. It's a very high level, so don't expect any deep dive. For that, I have a link on the other page about how to contribute to openSUSE. So this is really high level. And so our base building block is OBS, which allows us to rebuild packages on any change which is relevant, right? It detects what packages need to be rebuilt and so on. I feel like this is where we have huge benefit compared to, let's say, some other distributions. The other part is openSUSE release team, because we have to handle, it's people who have to process the submit request to every single package, which is not something that I'm used to from other distributions. But here we do that with help of some of actually bots, which are helping us with reviews. They may actually reject a review right away if it doesn't meet certain requirements and so on. But essentially, it's people who have to review it. I have to check origin reviews. Max has to check origin reviews, whether it comes from SLE or factory or libupdate and so on. So it's actually also one of the bottleneck is people, right? Then a big part is pre-integration testing, where I feel we are also, like in some ways ahead of other competitions, because we are actually able to detect breakage before it happens. Like, I'm not used to it from the other company, let's say, where we were testing the change after it landed in the in the nightly, let's say, nightly build of the product. So this is something amazing. But then again, like, the Jump may actually reduce a little bit of pre-integration. So it really, it's important to do this right. And find a way how to not compromise on quality. And then the last part, which I feel is also unique and big advantage, is OpenQA usage. So essentially, we have a huge amount of testing being done automatically on every single build, which also doesn't happen for free on other distributions. And this is also very important. So this is essentially 4 building blocks, which for me are the most important part of how we build Leap. So I would not call this necessarily improvement, but I would call it like, how can we move forward, and change this to the way that we would be better at what's the mission for the product, which is like joining enterprise and community, and provide a solution that works for for people who look stability, but also want to appreciate newer versions of packages. So again, Adrian mentioned Jump. Jump is essentially a proposal to reuse SLE binaries in Leap for packages which are equal. I will talk about the equality a little bit on the other part. So essentially, 1/3 of the distribution would come from SLE binary-wise. We could skip review, we could skip pre-integration. So because it would be already done for SLE, and if the packages are equal, I would expect equal results, right? May not be the case if Leap has like deeper test suite, which is not in SLE. So this is something that we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. That we are testing the same thing, so we are not surprised. But generally, like, we can save a lot of time on this, and you can see that this is also a few bottlenecks for current openSUSE Leap development. So this is where I see a benefit. Also, there are some compromises, right, on the rebuildability of the packages. As Adrian said, this is something that we are looking into. We need to make sure that product can be still rebuilt. So I linked 2 links, which I believe will give you the most information that we have currently available online. So one is the FAQ for closing the leap gap, which is also mentioned in the original email, which was announcing the proposal. So feel free to check both, but essentially the first link is part of the email. So that's about JUMP. Let's talk about something outside of the JUMP. So maybe you are aware, maybe you are not aware, but the entire SUSE is currently busy, and they are busy with syncing to code streams. It's also a prerequisite for the JUMP, because without this, it would not be possible, but it's also something that should have happened a long time ago, I believe. Because right now we actually really fight with differences, and it's hindering us as well. So in numbers, there's 150 packages which have functional differences. Could be support of different backends, like in VirtManager, it's GlassTrappers, which is not in SLE, it's in Leap, and so on. Or real-time support, which is in SLE side, in some packages it's not on Leap side, and so on. It could be different settings for kernel, also regarding preempt and real-time. It could be the way how we handle build time translation, missing support of Django in SLES, and so on. And I can tell you that the entire company is working on it. We have a mission to have this unification have done in 15.3 timeframe. I believe for 15.2 we still have a few weeks to go, but then we will stop and we will resume in 15.3, where this is the end goal. We really want to have the same code stream. Where it's not possible, we will make sure that we will find solution how to not compromise any features on Leap side. So don't be worried. I've seen some features being dropped, but these were backends for packages which are no longer updated and so on. And initially should have been dropped a long time ago. So such things happen, but we have this under control. If you would feel like you need to be more in the loop, please make sure to read the weekly minutes for closing the leap gap. They are being sent to factory, so you can be on the track with latest changes. I feel like this is also exciting because, again, it will save some resources on the Leap side, at least specifically release engineering. Let me share a roadmap, since I've mentioned that we want to be done with 15.3. So this is currently proposed roadmap. It's not final, at least for 15.2 it's final, but everything beyond 15.2 is currently optional, and it really depends on our research with JUMP and the work which is done by Adrian. So you may have already noticed that, but Leap 15.2 was delayed by 8 weeks. And the reason is the syncing of code streams. We actually want to be as able to do in 15.2 timeframe, and we've agreed with SLE side to invest into this for extra 8 weeks. So this is why it's done. I feel like it's beneficial for both worlds. And no matter whether closing the leap gap happens, JUMP happens or not, like this part is important. So if we would be done with the JUMP proposal in reasonable time, and we would feel secure. I've seen it also being raised on openSUSE factory from community, not from SUSE. Why don't we do some intermediate release? And there is that option. I won't raise it. The current agreement for the naming scheme would be 15.2.1. And it's solely dependent on the status of JUMP. Like, if we are not stable enough, if we have any, if we are not sure, it's not going to happen. And but if we are able to succeed, then this would be first hybrid release, which is actually built with usage of SLE binaries. It wouldn't use all of the binaries because we simply don't have enough time to do these code stream unification, and there would be still a lot of Leap forks for these 1/3 of enterprise packages. And then next release with openSUSE Leap 15.3, if everything goes well, we would like to have the Leap, which is at this 1/3 of packages identical with SLE. And there's a lot of challenges that I see, and they are being addressed. And if you are interested, and if you would like to maybe receive more information, feel free to reach out to us. A lot of discussion happens at the openSUSE release engineering call. Again, the other part of discussion is closing the leap gap weekly meetings. Factory receives updates from both every week. One is on Wednesday, the other is on Friday.
Lubos, can I make a remark?
Sorry?
Lubos, can I make a remark regarding the 15.2.1 release? So I think we will make a release there in any case based on jump, but it's a complete open if we think, and we means we inside of openSUSE means if it's a stable release or an experimental one, if it's something in parallel to 15.2 or something on some side fork. So this is something what we will need to discuss later this year when we have something. The reason why we need a release is because we need also to test all the maintenance work afterwards. Because it's one thing to build a distribution, but it's another thing to maintain the distribution afterwards. And therefore, we must do a release to learn also if our maintenance work and workflows is still working. So there will be a release in any case, I would like to say, but it's complete open if this is successor of Leap 15.2 or something completely different.
Thank you, Adrian. So let me go to the next slide. So available architectures. So since we are syncing binaries from SLE nowadays, you may not be aware of it or you've heard it from Adrian, but we actually do have fully synced, well, with few exceptions such as live patching, but fully synced SLE structure in public OBS. It also, brings us some opportunities, and that can be seen on the 15.3. But aside from that, there is an effort from release team to actually consider whether we could track the 64-bit ARM as a primary architecture. So I have promised Gilm that I will look into it. The big story behind is that we would like, or Gilm would like to have a ARM deliverables ISOs available on the main page. And we just want to make sure, that's a strong statement, right? It essentially places equal next to Intel. And we would like to see whether we are ready to do that. So if we would go for the jump proposal, there is one big benefit. The entire 1/3 of distribution would be synced from SLES, which actually supports ARM. It's fully supported architecture, but we are not SLES, right? We are way more. So the statement here is also to make sure whether the community parts such as KDE, by the way, I've received confirmation that KDE is able to support ARM, and other components are also able to support ARM. And the policy should also define what do we actually consider to be supportable if the architecture is called primary. Is it just the content of the image? Is it data below? Is it all the default components in Bugzilla and so on? So we are looking into it. Dirk is writing the policy for, I call it first-class citizen artifact or deliverable. It's currently in progress. Feel free to read release engineering meeting minutes. And as I mentioned, I'm already asking other components, aside from the SLE components, whether they are able to support, if somebody opens back and he says it doesn't work on ARM, are they even able to work on it? So that's the main idea. Are we able to do that? And that's actually, that's very, very cool topic to me. So in the next release, if we actually sync SLE binaries, and let's say that we would base Leap on jump approach, so we would reuse the binaries. We actually get S390 binaries for free as part of the sync. And I'm placing question mark, because it also takes some extra efforts, right? We have to make sure that this works, put images together and so on. And I would like to investigate whether it makes sense for Leap actually to have this architecture available. So also, I would like to make sure that everybody is aware that we do not plan to drop any architecture. We will have changes with ARM v7 32-bit and RISC-V, which is something that Adrian didn't mention. But we do not plan to drop them. We just need to figure out how to handle them. So there are several approaches. One of them is that we actually have to build them in separate project, which would require a lot of efforts. That's something that Adrian indirectly already said. But we would like to see if there is something else that we can do as well. So what's in the box? So this, do we have enough time? I'm not sure. Let me check the time. Okay. So we still have about 15 minutes. So this category, sorry, did anybody say anything?
Lubash, you can go 20 if you want, But
okay, sure. So discussion is more important than these slides. Trust me. Like from this starting point, I feel like discussion will get more important than the content. So what's in the box? I would like to touch two topics. Like, what do we have in the box now, and is there anything that we would like to add to the box, like maybe in next release? So because this is also some future plan, right? So what would be actually what seems to be the way for Leap in next, let's say, 1 year? KDE highlights. So I feel like Leap is a special place for KDE. A lot of users actually use Leap because of the KDE as well on desktop. So I contacted Antonio Larusa. He provided me an amazing summary of the features. I will not read them all. You can all see them. So you can see that this is not just a maintenance update. Like, we are really bringing new feature, new tools. If you are interested in all of the changelog from Antonio, feel free to see the link. It's linked in the main Leap landing page on Wiki. So go there, click on changes. You will see a link to KDE. I've already placed it there, I think, yesterday. So that's it. Regarding KDE, yeah, and the highlights, like what do we want to do for the future, right? So I've asked him, hey, Antonio, what's the plan for the next release? And Antonio said, it's pretty easy. Let's make sure that we deliver the latest KDE version, which is available to the release date of Leap, and do our best job. Also, he mentioned that the current KDE is not doesn't have Wayland as default option. So in the next release, he would like to see that. So if you are a Wayland fan, you should expect KDE to be by default running on Wayland in the next release. At least this is his wish. So since we are mentioning KDE, I would like to cover GNOME as well. GNOME is a little bit tricky because with GNOME, we are actually dependent on SLE, right? Because the version update, at least in 15.2, landed in SLE first, and then it got to Leap. You've heard it took us 6 weeks, which is something that we have to address. That's something that shouldn't happen. The changes, again, like now we have Wayland enabled by default in GNOME in 15.2. Their internal update, GNOME is one of the subsystems which are actually subject to the feature sync, let's call it like that, because we differentiate in many few details. In some cases, branding is very problematic to make sure that we can actually, build the same code on Leap and SLE and produces the same content without branding. So I would like to actually highlight an eFans effort, because their team is really doing a lot of effort to get this all together and make sure that we have unified source for Leap and SLE. So the goal is actually not to do all of it in 15.2 because we just don't have capacity for it, and the timing also isn't like the best. So again, it's once we release or we get to the freeze for 15.2 with public RC2, they will stop with the effort and we will resume in 15.3 when the goal is to have actually to be able to reuse Leap binaries and have just separate branding packages for Leap. This is the goal for GNOME and the plan for 15.3. So whatever SLE updates to, we need to be there as well, and we want to be identical. I feel like this is already a challenging goal. For example, just to say like why identical is important. So when I was processing OpenQ results for GNOME, it took me literally days actually to get results green. And it was just refreshing needles, and maybe like fixing few tests or asking our quality assurance team to fix it. But it's quite an effort, and I feel like the identicality could actually make Leap better fast follower in this regard, which is important. So some highlights for virtualization. So thanks to effort of WSL team, mainly Ludwig, Scott, and Jeff, we do have WSL 2.0 support. We are building in the Devel project. It will be added to Leap 15.2 shortly. What's kind of interesting about this is topic that maybe many people on this presentation may not be interested in, but we actually, based on the Windows Store statistics, we have more than 30,000 downloads of the openSUSE Leap 15.1 image, and that's quite a lot. And we don't, we don't actually test OpenQA or the WSL in OpenQA is not tested by pulling image from Windows Store. So we are not faking these results. It's actually people or individuals who are fetching the images. So I feel like this is a topic that we should exploit a lot and see how we can be better. I know that we will have the entire team actually who is willing to test the WSL in SUSE, or at least it will not be effort of one quality assurance engineer. It will be actually multiple, which is great news. We are also looking for a permanent resource for engineering. So that's I see great future for WSL at least when it comes to openSUSE. Also, I was told that we are the most up-to-date distribution on the portal. I mean, Windows Store, sorry. So next thing is Kubernetes tech. That's where I would like to thank Richard and community for trying to get it to Leap. We are almost done. To my knowledge, everything is just blocking the effort to get it to Leap is now unblocked, and then we should actually get the last missing piece into SLE mid next week, and then Leap is green. So I'm excited for that. I've also the another highlight is Leap containers come on. So that's for the virtualization and plans. So again, virtualization is a big group of packages which are affected by the feature differences. I already mentioned that we have a GlusterFS support in Leap, while it may be challenging to support it on SUSE side. So we are looking on the alternatives as well. So perhaps we can separate the package, like have the functionality in a separate SRPM, which would be available in Leap only, and handle it like a branding package, or see if there are any other ways how we can do that on the OBS side. So this is being looked into. There are also some features on SLE side which may not be available in Leap. So I feel like this entire stack will have some nice definition in the next release. We've agreed that we will not be able to do much for 15.2 because this is a really heavy topic, and most of it will happen in the next release. So stay tuned. We will have definitely more enterprise tech in Leap. And I feel like just the technical, implementation of how do we deal with the differences and still make it like identical is just interesting by itself. So let's see how this ends. And this would be towards like the content of the books. I know that we've added recently the lightweight OpenVPN and so on to Leap, but I would like to focus a little bit more on like what is the open areas for Leap, where I see like either the new relationship with SUSE, can actually take us, or generally what's something that we should investigate for Leap or Tumbleweed as well. So there's one highlight that I believe that could raise openSUSE Leap visibility in media and so on, and this is confirmed with developer community. I actually synced up with them before this talk about what we are going to say here, and the developer community program from SUSE is really excited about like making identical platforms, so to say, because openSUSE Leap can be advertised as a free identical development platform to SLE, right? And I'm not sure if you've checked the SUSE developer portal recently, but they have Sandbox, which is like essentially, hey, you can run your workload on our containers for free, if you are a part of the developer community and play with it. And I feel like this is a huge space for Leap, and I expect also that there will be several blog posts also putting some light on Leap, which otherwise wouldn't happen. So like, at least from this point of view, I think it's very, very useful for openSUSE Leap visibility. So this new relationship that we will have that didn't exist before, with the developer community, not SUSE, will bring some goods. I'm sure of that. Another area which is now being opened by the sync of SLE binaries is the real time. So there will be a later today presentation about macOS, I believe. I'm not sure if they will cover Leap or not, but no matter what, Leap on macOS will actually need the kernel RT. So we will sync over the kernel RT from the real-time product in SUSE to public OBS. And now this is the area where I believe it's an opportunity for Leap. We can decide to use it and have it available. Just to let you know, the current kernel that we have in Leap is kind of better suited for real-time than the default stock / kernel. So we were kind of used nice comparison as in reception, where in one case you actually you may not get receptionist in the first 2 minutes, but it's always going to arrive there in these 2 minutes. And is it okay for you? In another case, the receptionist will be there always within 15 seconds. Are you okay with waiting for 15 seconds if you know that she will appear? And in the last case, it's there constantly, and it can always be there for you if you need anything. So Leap would be the second category. The SLE default kernel is the first category, and the third category is the kernel RT, which we may consider adding to Leap. So far, it's open topic. Like, there is nothing set in stone. We know it will be in Leap macOS, that's for sure. but whether to use it in Leap or not, that's another question. If we would actually accept it, there is several other packages which actually have RT capabilities enabled in SLES, but not in Leap, and they are also part of the source code unification. LTTNG modules and Crash, to my knowledge, there will be probably more. And we also have to decide what to do with them in Leap. Do we want the features for real time, but we also need the real time kernel, or do we not want that? So I see this is another topic that we can exploit for Leap. Something else that came to my mind, and it's not really good candidate for Leap, but maybe it could be if you would agree to add some experimental support for it, and that's the new Snapdragon laptop wave. So you may have noticed the R64 laptops. I am aware that Fedora was pretty active there, but so to say, I wasn't able to find any openSUSE involvement at all. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I would be really interested to know whether there is somebody else from openSUSE community who would like to be willing to invest into that area, or has already the Snapdragon-based hardware that he would like to try to run Leap on, or Tumbleweed more likely because of the newer kernel. Currently doesn't have new enough kernel to actually support this hardware, but that may happen. That may change the next release or the release after. So I would be really interested to know your feedback on this one. And with this, I believe that we've kind of met the time. Let me see. Something got stuck in LibreOffice because I cannot move to next slide. But the next slide, yeah, okay, now I can. Any questions? So I would expect some discussion to happen, like if there is something that you would like to see in Leap, or if you are not okay with where Leap is going, or if you would like to see some new area being explored by Leap where it's currently not, or it's not good enough at. So anything that you would like to highlight, or any concerns? What may help is that all the proposals that you've seen on openSUSE Factory may be public Bugzilla, may be Jump, may be the closing the Leap gap, which Jump actually is part of, but it's not just Jump. It's also like the process part, right? It's bringing the code together and so on. The migration part, which Adrian already mentioned. So these are all in progress, right? It's not set in stone, and we have I feel like we are we still have an option to actually steer it where we want, if it doesn't work for us. Like I'm really happy that I have some background from SLE, because I see the processes, I see the parts where it hinders SLE as well. So I see a chance where this can be changed towards being more friendly to Leap as well. So I'm very optimistic. I'm not I personally feel like it's going to bring more good than bad. So what about you? Either mics are muted or no questions.
I mean, you were very, very comprehensive on this. So I feel like you answered everything I could possibly ask about this.
Well, we'll see. It's not just me, right? It's also you have to make sure that it works with other teams. So to say, there is a lot of areas that we will have to explore, like maintenance. Can we make maintenance updates easier for Leap with the new approach? If we could release them just once, let's say, and so on. So it's there is a lot of puzzle pieces, and we can try to affect them, and in some cases we will be able to, in some cases we won't be.
So I guess one thing that's somewhat confusing for me with this is a lot of this future strategy for Leap involves the Jump thing that was announced just a little bit ago.
Not just. I would say closing the Leap gap as the effort more than just Jump, because it's multiple pieces. It's public Bugzilla processes improvement, like reducing, the hinder, when we block currently users to contribute to SLE packages. That's not Jump. That's existing problem, right? So it's
right.
But Jump may be answer to many of these, or not just the only answer, but part of the answer.
So I guess is one of the end state goals is that when people want to make fixes to SLE packages, they can send this SR straight to the SLE project, and it won't just get auto closed and denied.
So my goal, and what I actually also mentioned, I believe in the FAQ or the SLE process request. I'm not sure if you've seen the link. SLE feature requests and persona specifically, is that I don't like personally the reject statement. I think it's a very strong statement, And I feel like it's demotivating statement, right? If we just keep on rejecting every single submission which is being sent, and yes, something happens on the other side behind the wall with no clear updates, like this is not the way we want to take. So I would personally like to, like for me, if the change needs to happen on the other side, no matter what, and we are able to transport that submission without rejecting it, maybe with some new state in OBS, or maybe supersede it, which already is not as bad as reject, I would be more open towards this way. But I feel like in October, which is the deadline for the process, this reject is unacceptable. So that will not happen. We just need to figure out how to do it, like nicely, right? It's two instances, right? Let's be honest. And we have to figure out how to sync state or do it kind of in a way that you get updates from the other instance. Could be through existing Jira that we have for partners. Could be through some other tool. I don't know answer to that tool yet, but I know it's not going to be rejected.
I would like to add there, the technical implementation is most likely that when you create a submit request to jump or the new future leap, you would see that it actually goes to the SUSE SLE projects, and and we could give feedback on this request there. But so the technical part from the OBS side is relatively easy. The hard part is to discuss with all release managers and all code owners and so on that there is actually also commitment to work on these, and so this is something what we need to do. And especially because it's a maintenance update, so maintenance will be here a very big part. But I have also to say, maintenance team themselves is very open, so they are also already thinking about how to test updates, SLE updates, including the jump, because they know that if they release the SLE update, it will also be used in jump, so that they include in the SLE testing also jump. So this is also an ongoing discussion.
I also would like to highlight one thing which may not be obvious, because Leap is built in completely different way. So when we say maintenance update, and let's say you would like to send a beta submission for Leap, like that beta submission for Leap, which is targeting one of the packages in the first thread of the enterprise packages, can be maintenance update as well. And this is solely done by the fact that the SUSE Linux Enterprise is using the inheritance model, where essentially the service pack 2, the equivalent of 15.2, may actually inherit package from one of the update streams. So in fact, the solution for accepting the submission is to release, let's say, an update to 15.1, and then service pack 2, 15SP1, and then service pack 2 inherits this submission. The another option is to fork it, but this is going, this makes the maintenance more complicated, because you have to check multiple, origins of the package, right? So this is something that may be unclear, and it's not just that if we will receive a late submission, it will be maintenance update. It may be also very early submission. So this makes it a little bit more complex, I have to say. So I've recently did an effort to document, I think it was 5 cases in the end, what can happen with the submission, and maintenance team is involved in 3 options. So yeah, it's tricky. So by the way, the document will make it public, I think, hopefully next week. It's still being cooked inside. So anything else? Also, I'm not sure if we've answered you, Neil.
I feel like you kind of did. I guess part of it is I just want to see that when all of this is put together, that me as an external contributor, whenever I find a bug in a package that is managed by SUSE, I'm not screwed on trying to fix it and then waiting for months on end for a fix to be going through some black hole.
Yep. So there's one situation where I feel like this may happen, and this is still, I don't have even idea about how to solve it in the way that could work for everyone. And I've already seen one submission like that. I think it was even from you. It was the Python BizDeps support in RPM, which required rebuild of several Python packages. And we are willing to do these. Actually, I I think that we've agreed with Tomasz that we will do it, but we will not do it in 15.2 because it's already in RC. Lib is a little bit shifted, so we are not there yet. They are already there. And for state, it's unacceptable to rebuild a lot of packages in maintenance stream at this point. So we would probably have to fork these packages in next release. And this is something which is not transparent, and therefore it's confusing and like kind of annoying as well. So we need to figure out the way how to make these transparent and say, yes, let's do it. Like these are the problems. And with this option, if we know that this change is going to happen, like, is there any workaround that we can do on the leap side? Because this is going to happen. We have a confirmation. Can we keep a temporary fork? And then, it complicates the maintenance setup. And like we will have to release a separate maintenance update for this and so on. So it's quite complex topic. But I would like to find if the next release is fine, if we open it post beta, in early phase it could still happen. But if we open it post beta, such request, then is it okay to fix it in the next release, or do we have to do intermediate step to have it done in leap sooner? Is it blocking any extra work, which is expecting this change to be in place? So I feel like we should have a plan to have some sort of solution that works for all. But right. If you want the enterprise, we still have to, respect the individual phases of the product and do not, do dramatic changes in the RC phase. So it's complex topic. Yeah.
And yeah, I get all of that. It's just it's kind of it's just too opaque at the end.
Right. So let's see that. I hope that we can improve, and I believe that we can. So it only depends whether we can take that path and whether it's okay with everyone. Yeah.